Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. I am your host, Uriah Sefna. Lots to dive into this week. Browns season's finally here, starting this weekend, opening week against the Baltimore Ravens. We also have some topics to discuss related to the Indians. They haven't been doing so well lately. We also have more NBA playoff updates for you, as well as more soccer news on the way. It's all right now on the Cleveland Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Uriah Sefna of NordoniaHills.News, and the Cleveland Sports Show starts right now. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. Before we get into our main course for today, all the sports topics to discuss, I just would like to take a moment of silence for the victims who tragically passed away 19 years ago on September 11th, 2001. Today is Friday, September 11th, 2001, and before I begin the show, I would just like to commence a moment of silence for the heroes on United Flight 93, the heroes, all the firefighters, the police officers, the paramedics in New York City, to the staff at the Pentagon who unfortunately lost their lives that day, and all the other brave souls who stopped what could have been, what at the time and still is the worst attack on American soil. Please join me in a moment of silence for those who fell on 9/11. Thank you. Now, let's get into our sports fact of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a tennis fact for you from September 11th in 2011. And in this sports fact, we actually have it. It's about Serena Williams. 9th-seeded Samantha Storr of Australia stuns Serena Williams 6-2 and 6-3 the scores in the U.S. Open final at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Flushing Meadows, New York. The match is marred by Serena's loss of composure and an outburst at chair umpire Eva Asterikai in the opening game of the second set after Asterikai reverses a call. The crowd sides with Williams, but Storr prevails for the first Grand Slam singles title of her career and the first by an Australian woman in any Grand Slam tournament since Yvonne Goolagong Quali in 1980. To reach the final, Stosur had to survive a trio of three-set matches, including one in the fourth round, in which she lost 17-15 tiebreaker to the second round set to Russia's Maria Krylenko. And that is our tennis sports fact of the week. It's always interesting to hear what type of different sports we have. And that time, we had a U.S. Open fact for you. That's why I love the sports fact of the day. We have a variety of topics to discuss, but we also have a variety of topics to discuss in the MLS as well, because our season in the MLS is still going strong. We do have some upcoming matches for you. Chicago will be taking on the Columbus Crew tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. NYCFC taking on Cincinnati tomorrow as well. DC United going up against the New York Red Bulls. Orlando City going up against Miami. Philadelphia taking on New England tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Time. Nashville going up against Atlanta United. FC Dallas and Houston. And then to round out our day tomorrow, it's Salt Lake City and Colorado. We have so much going on in the MLS, and our standings as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, the Columbus Crew are still in first place in the MLS Eastern Conference. 23 points, best in the conference. 10 matches played, 7 wins, 2 draws, and only 1 loss. Toronto only 2 points behind them, however, 21 points thanks to 11 matches played with 6 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. FC Cincinnati are at the bottom of the table. Who would have thought? 10 matches for FC Cincinnati, 2 wins, 3 draws, and 5 losses. Only 9 points for them. They are one of only 4 teams in the MLS's Eastern Conference who have not broken the 10-point margin yet. So we'll see what FC Cincinnati will be able to do. The schedule for FC Cincinnati, as I mentioned, includes a matchup tomorrow in New York against NYCFC tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. They will then stay in New York for their second matchup against FC Cincinnati as well, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. FC Cincinnati will then be taking on Philadelphia on Wednesday, September 23rd, before closing out the their season against NYCFC again on the 26th. For the Columbus Crew, after that 3-0 win against FC Cincinnati this past Sunday, Ohio Derby Part 2 in Columbus at MAPFRE Stadium. As I mentioned, Columbus will be playing Chicago in the Windy City tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They will then head back to MAPFRE Stadium for a 2-game homestand against Nashville and Minnesota before closing out their regular season against Toronto FC up north in Toronto. For the Premier League, that begins tomorrow, match day 1 of 38 in England. Our schedule kicks off at 7:30 in the morning with Fulham taking on Arsenal, Crystal Palace going up against Southampton, Liverpool will be going up against Leeds United, West Ham going up against Newcastle, West Brom and Leicester City, Tottenham going up against Everton, Sheffield United and the Wolves, and our final match of tomorrow, a good one, Brighton taking on Chelsea. That is our opening weekend matchups for the Premier League. We'll have standings, top scorers, and all of that for you next week as the 2020-21 Premier League season is finally underway. We'll kick off tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the NBA playoffs, where Giannis Antetokounmpo and his Milwaukee Bucks are officially done. The second year in a row, Giannis and the Bucks have gotten the first seed in the Eastern Conference and have not made the NBA Finals. That is hard to believe, to be quite honest with you. Giannis Antetokounmpo had been struggling with some ankle problems. They were first visible in Game 3 when he tweaked his ankle against Miami. And in Game 4, he actually started the game, played well, and ended up with 19 points, actually, was doing very well against Miami, and then tweaked that same right ankle again. Therefore, Chris Middleton had to pick up the slack if Miami wanted to keep their season alive, and that's exactly what they did. Down 3-0 in Game 4 in Orlando, the Milwaukee Bucks and Chris Middleton come up with a huge win. Middleton himself finished with 36 points, top scorer for the game. 36 points in 48 minutes to go along with 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Brook Lopez and Eric Bledsoe combined for 28 points. George Hill and Dante DiVincenzo combined for 22 points. It was a great team effort for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they actually shot 49% from the field. They were very efficient on the offensive end, only hit 11 three-pointers. They're not a terrific three-point shooting team. However, Middleton and crew able to make up for that in the rebounding category. Milwaukee out-rebounds Miami 46-41. 9 offensive rebounds for the Bucks compared to only 6 for Miami. Now, with the Bucks down 3-1, some people thought, okay, is Giannis going to be ready to go for Game 5? We'll see. Giannis Antetokounmpo, it was official, did not play for Game 5. And if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I honestly understand that decision. Those ankle injuries can get very serious. You don't want something to happen, something to get worse, and then it ends up like Kevin Durant, where he can't play for the entire year. We don't want to see that. We'd rather have him just sit out this game And for the Bucks, it did cost them the game. However, they lost Game 5 to Miami 103-94. Chris Middleton, after dropping 36 in Game 4 with only 23 points in Game 5 in 42 minutes. Eric Bledsoe, only 9 points. Dante DiVincenzo had a very strong game. He was actually the second leading scorer for Milwaukee in Game 5 with 17 points in 28 minutes to go along with 4 rebounds and an assist. But the story of this series is obviously the Miami Heat. This will be the first time the Heat are going to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2014, where they met a young Paul George, and the Indiana Pacers. That was LeBron's final year in Miami before coming back to Cleveland. This Jimmy Butler story has been fantastic this year. What I love about this Miami team is Jimmy Butler doesn't have to score 40 for them to win. Jimmy Butler, last game, Game 5, he had 17 points in 37 minutes to go along with 10 rebounds and 6 assists. He's not dropping, 35, and the Heat still won by 9, because you have guys like Jay Crowder, who had 16 points, Bam Adebayo had 13 points, Goran Dragic tied Jimmy Butler for top scorer for the Heat with 17 points, Tyler Hero, a rookie, with 14 points in a closeout playoff game. You have guys like Kelly Olynyk, Andre Iguodala. You don't have to worry about one guy carrying this Miami team because the scoring is just so balanced. I love the fluidity in which they're playing with on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I don't like how they've been closing out games. I didn't like how they closed out Game 2 of this series, how they basically had to, they scrapped by with those 2 Jimmy Butler free throws. Game 3, I was very impressed with how they closed out. They won by 15 in the end. Game 4, you could say, okay, Chris Middleton just had a night. But in Game 5, Milwaukee actually outscored Miami in both of the quarters of the second half. So that is something that does concern me a little bit, especially with Miami going up against a Celtics or Raptors team. We'll see what they'll be able to do in terms of closing out games in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that takes me to a Jimmy Butler interview I want to share with you guys. This is what Jimmy Butler had to say, again, on he was praising his teammates after this critical Game 5 win and an advancement to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2014. This interview was brought to you by the House of Highlights YouTube channel. Here's Jimmy Butler on moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals.
We love it that way. It's a team game. We've been that way all year long. But a win is a win, and we take it how we can get it. We talked about one being out the mud. I think that this was the one. But so many guys stepped up for us in so many ways. And I applaud everybody for being ready tonight.
And everyone certainly was ready in this series to go. Eric Spoelstra once again doing a phenomenal job coaching this Miami team. Rather young Miami team as well, but they do have some veteran leaders like Andre Iguodala. You obviously have Jimmy Butler. Kelly Olynyk has been in the league for a while. Definitely love what I'm seeing from this Miami team, but they're going to be going up against either a Celtics team or a Raptors team. Raptors have a lot of confidence. After this series was tied at 2 games apiece between the Boston Celtics and Toronto Raptors, the Celtics, with a commanding Game 5 win, destroy the Raptors in Game 5. A 25-11 first quarter for the Celtics. The Celtics then outscore the Toronto Raptors in the second quarter. Celtics put 37 up on the board in the second quarter alone. They were outscored by a total of 5 combined points in the second half. Jaylen Brown was phenomenal, finished with 27 points, no assists. However, he did have 6 rebounds in 37 minutes. Jason Tatum, 18, 10, and 4 on the night in 36 minutes. Daniel Tice has been fantastic. 15 points for him to go along with 8 rebounds. Kemba Walker had a very strong performance as well. Starting point guard for Boston with 21 points in 36 minutes. And Marcus Smart, another phenomenal performance. He really is the glue guy of this Celtics roster, is Smart. 12 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, but he's doing all those little things, drawing those charges, all of those hustle plays. phenomenal defensive plays. This guy was nominated to the All-NBA Defensive First Team, and I can clearly see why. This guy puts his heart on the court every single night, lays it all out there. Brad Wanamaker, the backup point guard for the Celtics, also had a strong game. 15 points for him in 28 minutes. Game 6 was a completely different story. We thought the Celtics were going to close it out. I honestly thought the Celtics were going to close it out in Game 6. However, that was not the case. Toronto outscores Boston 33-25 in the third quarter. The defending champions, their season was on the line, and they responded. With the game being tied after regulation, we were forced to go into overtime. After an 8-8 overtime in the first overtime, we obviously had to go to a second overtime where the Raptors outscored the Celtics. It was a very high-scoring 5 minutes, 19-16 5-minute period in that second overtime period in favor of the Raptors, and they win the game by 3, 125-122, the final score in 2 overtimes. Pascal Siakam has struggled in that series, and that continued. 54 minutes, only 12 points for Siakam. Kyle Lowry, 33 points in 53 minutes. He was the star of the show for the Toronto Raptors. Leading scorer in the game for either team. Fred VanVleet and Norman Powell combined for 44 points for Toronto. Serge Ibaka dropped 13 points in for the Raptors as well. And this was really a performance where I was very, very impressed with the Raptors' resilience. Although they were out-rebounded, as well as offensively rebounded, they were not afraid to shoot the ball. They shot about 44% from the field. They made 19 three-pointers, each team making 19 three-pointers. Raptors getting to the free throw line, shot 18 of 25 from the free throw line, and had 36 points in the paint. They also only had 12 turnovers for the game as well. But what really has surprised me is how inconsistent Kemba Walker has kind of been, especially last night. The Celtics, and Charles Barkley made a great analysis of this last night on Inside the NBA on TNT. He essentially said, well, if the Celtics don't play well, if Kemba Walker doesn't play well, the leader of the Celtics aren't going to win basketball games. And Kemba Walker, in Game 6, only 5 points, 2 for 11 from the field, and only 1 of 6 from three-point range. That's just not going to get it done. I understand, Kemba Walker really doesn't have the best experience when it comes to the NBA playoffs. He did go there a few times with Charlotte, but, nothing great. They didn't advance very far. So I understand. Kemba Walker really hasn't been this deep in the playoffs before. But this is still Kemba Walker. This is the guy who we basically say, if Kyrie is Batman, then Kemba Walker is Robin. He's the second best thing to Kyrie Irving. And I really think that if Kemba Walker can get back on track, doesn't have to score 50 points, but in Game 5, he had 21 points to go along with 4 rebounds and 7 assists. If he can provide something like that in Game 7 for the Boston Celtics, then I think they will win this series. Game 7 between the Celtics and Raptors tonight at 9 on TNT. It is win or go home. Raptors seeking their second straight conference finals appearance, and the Celtics looking to get back to the conference finals for the first time since 2018, where they lost to LeBron James and our Cleveland Cavaliers in 7 games. We'll see what happens, but let's move on to the Western Conference playoff bracket, where the Lakers have taken a commanding 3-1 series lead against James Harden and the Houston Rockets. Small ball for LA has paid off in dividends. In the last 3 games, the Lakers have out-rebounded Houston 136-91. 136-91. That is just unbelievable. We knew the Rockets were going to struggle rebounding the ball in this series. The Lakers are just too big. You have LeBron and Anthony Davis as your front court. PJ Tucker cannot approximate that. I think PJ Tucker is a great player. Love his energy, love his tenacity, but he can't out-rebound LeBron or Anthony Davis. That's what I'm struggling to see with the Houston Rockets. I mean, James Harden at one point was probably their tallest player on the floor. The small ball is just not working. And if you're a center and you're looking for a job in the NBA right now, you are hoping that the Houston Rockets have some applications ready for you to sign, ready and waiting for you to sign, because they need some big men. And I don't know why Tyson Chandler isn't playing. Does he have an injury? But it doesn't seem like Mike D'Antoni wants to utilize him because he wants to utilize the small ball lineup. And in Game 4, after a very commanding performance, the Lakers actually started to struggle a bit in the fourth quarter. James Harden and company got it going. However, LeBron and Anthony Davis close out the Rockets in Game 4. Fourth quarter score was 30-20 in favor of LA, and the Lakers beat the Rockets in Game 4 112-102. And Game 3. That was Game 3. And in Game 4, the Lakers took a 3-1 lead, 110-100, and Houston actually outscored the Lakers 30-24 in the fourth quarter. However, LeBron and Anthony Davis hold on. In Game 4, Anthony Davis finished with 29, 12, and 5 with that double-double. LeBron was 1 assist shy of a triple-double with 16 points, 15 rebounds, and 9 assists. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Alex Caruso, and Danny Green all combined for 36 points. And playoff Rajon Rondo is officially back. This is a huge boost for the LA Lakers. You add another playmaker alongside LeBron, that is going to help you enormously. And Talen Horton-Tucker, who is a rookie for the Los Angeles Lakers, giving them some valuable minutes. In 7 minutes, Horton-Tucker with 5 points and 2 rebounds. So played well out there in his first NBA playoff appearance for his overall career, first season in the playoffs. For the Houston Rockets, Eric Gordon finished with 19 points in 35 minutes. James Harden and Russell Westbrook combined for 46 points, but that 46 was just not enough. Jeff Green and Ben McLemore, only 18 points combined, just not efficient enough. Guys, I'll be honest with you, I think the Rockets are done. They're just too small. And if they do somehow come up with a miracle win in Game 5, I expect the series to be over in Game 6. I don't think LeBron and the Lakers are going to let this team hang around, especially with the Clippers up 3-1 against Denver, and they're most likely going to advance. We're going to talk about that LA-Denver series in a few minutes here. But again, I mean, you just look at the rebounds. In Game 4, LA out-rebounded Houston 52-26, and in Game number 3, LA out-rebounded Houston 43-30. It's just this small ball for the Rockets is not going to work. Yes, James Harden is phenomenal. Yes, Russell Westbrook is phenomenal. But you need at least one big man. I mean, the trade for Clint Capella was probably not the best idea. I think Clint Capella was actually an asset, and he was a huge reason as to why they were so successful in that 2017-18 season when they got the first seed. And now I just don't see what is the future of this Rockets team going to be. Is Mike D'Antoni still going to lose his job? We'll see. But here's what LeBron had to say in terms of his teammates and how they were a little sloppy closing out Game 4, but his teammates were able to get the job done anyway. Here's LeBron via House of Highlights on YouTube.
Well, first of all, I want to hit on that last part. Obviously, we got to be better. We got to close out games the right way. We get a big lead. We got to be able to, continue to defend and continue to put the pressure on their defense and not allow them to get back into the game like we did. We started to give up, some threes. We started to give up, some fouls in the backcourt when we were in the penalty, and allowing them to score without the time running. So we'll be better. We watch film. We'll be better. But to get to your point, being able to have the luxury of being able to start Keith at the 5 and having that versatility, having more speed out on the floor, allowed us to stay home a lot on their three-point shooters, and for the majority of the game. So it worked very well for us.
And Keith, if you fans don't know, is Markieff Morris, who started at the 5 for the LA Lakers, and it paid dividends because the Lakers were able to run with Houston. The Houston Rockets obviously want to push the ball, go for threes because they're just too small to work it in the post. So with Markieff Morris there, the Lakers were able to equal the pace of Houston's and now have a commanding 3-1 lead in this best-of-7 series. Game 5 of Lakers-Rockets is tomorrow night, Saturday, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Lakers looking to close it out and go to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2010, their most recent championship. Rockets looking to overcome a 3-1 deficit starting tomorrow. And our final series of the NBA playoffs, Denver Nuggets, LA Clippers. After a Nuggets victory in Game 2, 110-101, this past Saturday, the 5th, the series was tied at 1, and Paul George, all 32 points of him and in 40 minutes were needed for the Clippers to regain control in this series. In Game 3, the Clippers won 113-107, the final score. Paul George finishes with 32, 4 and 4. Kawhi Leonard finishes with 23 points in 42 minutes to go along with 14 rebounds, the leading rebounder for the Clippers in Game 3, and the only Clipper in Game 3 to have double-digit rebounding numbers. For the Nuggets in Game 3, Nikola Jokic, the top scorer, and Jamal Murray was the third leading scorer with 14 points. Michael Porter Jr. has had a strong series, 18 points for him in Game 3. Porter Jr. did cause some controversy in the Nuggets locker room, saying that he was not essentially not getting enough touches. And let's see if this is going to be the nail in the coffin for the Denver Nuggets, because they're now down 3-1. In Game 4, the Nuggets fell 96-85 to Kawhi and the Clippers again. This time, Kawhi Leonard put up 30 points in 39 minutes, and Paul George only with 10 points in 27 minutes. I don't know what's going on with Paul George in these NBA playoffs. Can someone please explain to me why one night he'll get 32 and another night he'll only drop 10? I mean, is there something personal going on? Or is he afraid of the moment? I don't think he's afraid of the moment. I think he's a great basketball player. But, I mean, if Kawhi doesn't have those 30 points, the Clippers only won Game 4 by 11. So if Kawhi doesn't go all in, all out, and gets only one assist shy of a triple-double, who knows where this series might be right now? We could be tied at 2, honestly. And Game 5 of this series is tonight. Clippers looking to close out this series on TNT. It actually begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Clippers are looking to close out this series and move on to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history. This is the best Clippers team we've ever seen, and I have no doubts or concerns whatsoever that they will be getting to the Western Conference Finals, most likely to play the LA Lakers. However, I did mention Game 5 tonight at 6:30 p.m. on TNT. If Denver wants to keep their season alive, they're going to have to overcome a 3-1 series deficit again, as they did against the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell. We'll see what happens. But what happened with the Indians last night was not great. And at Progressive Field in Cleveland last night, here's some game sound from the Indians' loss to the Kansas City Royals at Progressive Field.
Now the Royals have 2 speed guys on, and if Dozier could gap one, the Royals could take the early lead. And there's a line drive to right field. That's going to be down. Here's Witt around third. And the throw to the plate is late, and now it gets past Hedges. Mondesi stays at second base. And the Royals take a 1-0 lead on Hunter Dozier's 2-out RBI.
And that would just be a nail in the coffin for the Indians, who would lose the game 11-1 last night against the Kansas City Royals. The Royals with 3 home runs alone in the 3rd inning. They then scored 3 more runs in the 7th inning, combined for a total of 11 runs. Indians with only 1 run, and that came in the 9th inning. For the Indians, as I mentioned, they have certainly struggled in their last few games. They're only 5-5 in their last 10 games, and they've now moved to third in the American League Central Division in the MLB. The Indians still have a winning record. They're 26-18 overall on the season. They're 1.5 games behind first place, and actually have only a 12-11 record at home at Progressive Field, as opposed to their 14-7 record on the road away from Cleveland. To round out the American League Central Division standings, it's the White Sox, Twins, as I mentioned, Indians in third, Detroit Tigers in fourth, and the Kansas City Royals, who are struggling as of late. After that 11-1 win last night, you would not have think this team is only 17-28 and 3-7 in their last 10 games. However, the upcoming schedule for the Indians includes a trip to Minnesota, which actually begins today. The Indians are in Minneapolis for a matchup with the Minnesota Twins. They will have 3 matchups in Minneapolis before heading back south to Chicago on Tuesday, the 15th, where they will be facing off against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. The Indians will then head to the Motown for a throwdown with the Tigers. Indians-Tigers for a 4-game series, which will conclude on Sunday, September 20th, and then the Indians will head back home to Progressive Field in Cleveland on the 21st for a matchup with the Chicago White Sox. And ladies and gentlemen, our final topic of today, the Cleveland Browns are officially back in action. No games of preseason games, to be more specific, for the Cleveland Browns due to COVID-19 this year. However, the regular season is finally upon us. The Cleveland Browns will be in Baltimore for a matchup against the Ravens. There will be no in-person attendance at this game. Obviously, we know how crowded NFL games can get, so obviously taking precautions there. And the game will be at 1 p.m. on CBS, live from Baltimore, Maryland. Here is what head coach Kevin Stefanski had to say on Browns Live with Joe Thomas in terms of how the Browns haven't really had any preseason footage because there was no preseason this year. So therefore, Joe Thomas asked Coach Stefanski, how difficult is it going to be in that first game doing all of those in-game adjustments due to the fact that you don't really have any preseason footage of how Baltimore plays or what they execute. Here's what Stefanski had to say on Browns Live.
It is extremely important, Joe, to have great communication on the sideline there. You know, you got to think about this. The coordinators in Baltimore have been together for a while. That team has been together. So their scheme, we do have tape on it going back a few years. Now, most people don't show much in preseason anyway. You're trying to save some things for the regular season. So every week one of every year, there's always some wrinkles. So we're prepared for them. We want our guys to play fast, understand that it's a rules game, follow your rules, and if we do have to make an adjustment, that's what we have to do on the boundary.
And the Browns certainly will be looking for a opening week win, especially after their unfortunate season last year, going only 6-10. The Browns, after their matchup in Baltimore against the Ravens, will be returning to First Energy Stadium in Cleveland for a 2-game homestand. First, the Ohio rivalry in the NFL against the Bengals, Cincinnati, and then on September 27th, they will have a 1 o'clock afternoon game at First Energy Stadium against Washington. The Browns will then head to Dallas on October 4th for a matchup against the Cowboys. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this week's episode of the Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you very much for joining me this week. Before I go, I just would like to let you know how you can access all my other work and some of my other postings on NordoniaHills.News. First of all, if you're on NordoniaHills.News, just go under the Contributors tab. My name is the second one down. in that tab, you can find all my other work, my other episodes of the Cleveland Sports Show. I've written some articles this summer, some player profiles. I've done some interviews over the COVID-19 hiatus. Make sure you see all of that. I also have posted all my work on Twitter. At Nordonia Sports is my Twitter handle. Or you can just type in my name on Twitter, spelled DARAYUSSETHNA. I am also on the go. The Cleveland Sports Show is on the go for you on Spotify. Just make sure you type in my name, spelled DARAYUSSETHNA, and all your Cleveland sports needs will be fulfilled. The Cleveland Sports Show is also on YouTube. Just type in the Cleveland Sports Show and the episode number you're looking for, or you can just type in my name, and the Cleveland Sports Show episodes will be there for you to listen to on YouTube as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my episode and this week's episode of the Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you so much for your time. We will see you very soon. Take care, everyone.